Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great day. This will be part 2 of the Golf R versus M2 comparison videos. This video, we're going to be comparing the driving dynamics of both the Golf R and the M2. Which one do I like better as far as like driving it, which one accelerates better and all that stuff. So stay tuned. Guys, setting off in the Golf R. So first I want to talk about sound. Once we get over to the M2, I'll start that up so you guys can be the judge of which one sounds better. I think the M2 sounds better. It's a little bit louder, although the Golf R does sound good for a turbo 4-cylinder. You know, stock form, it sounds good. Sometimes people make their Golf sound horrible, but in stock form it sounds pretty good. I just wish it was a little bit louder but kept the same tone. The M2 is a little bit louder. Like I said, we'll get over to that when we get there. So for sound, I'll give that to the M2. Handling. So let's go ahead and, like here in Vegas, there's not a lot of places to do real like handling, but let me go ahead and go into the R mode here and turn off our traction control, which is a little bit harder to do in the Golf R than the M2. There we go. And we'll put it in special. So we're in Nürburgring mode right now. So this is like the handling mode, I guess. Okay, this car's in our way. Let's zoom around him. Oh shoot, there's a police up there. Okay, we're good. He's going that way. But here in Vegas, it's so hard to find a place to do like handling. But I will say this, the M2 will take it as far as handling. The Golf R is a lighter vehicle, yes, but the M2, just with those wide 275 Michelins, it just handles better than the Golf R does. Now this one handles good, don't get me wrong, but the M2 does handle better. Once we turn this corner here, we'll do a little pull in the Golf R and see how the acceleration is. And then we'll do the same pull in the M2 and compare. So let's go ahead and come to a stop here. The brakes are good in the Golf R. Yeah, the brakes are good in the Golf R for sure. But I think the M2 brakes are better. But again, once we get over to the M2, we'll do that. All right, so let's go ahead and take off here. This car is quick, very quick. Oh man, that's fun. Now, MPG. So the M2 gets about 5 MPG worse than the Golf R does with similar driving. So if I'm driving the Golf R on the highway, I'll get around like 29 to 30. If I'm driving the M2 on the highway, I'll get around like 25. In the city, the Golf R gets like low 20s, like 22, 23, and that's if I'm doing a lot of pulls and stuff like that. The M2 in the city will get around like 16, 17. So Golf R beats it for fuel economy. Obviously, you know, it's a turbo 4 compared to a straight 6 twin turbo. Although the B58 engine gets excellent fuel economy, but the S58 is not, that's not the S58 strong suit. All right, let's take off here. Yeah, it gets up and moves good. Now let's talk about the suspension in the Golf R. In my custom mode, I have the suspension set to the softest setting because when I'm driving normally, I'm not carving corners or whatever. I want the suspension to feel like a luxury car. And the Golf R does that amazingly. With the DCC, or continuously controlled dampening, CCD, or whatever they call it, this car handles absolutely incredibly. This car's suspension is extremely soft. It soaks up the bumps well, provides a really smooth ride. So I'd say the Golf R beats the M2 as far as suspension comfort. Now, when I put this car in the race mode, that's when the suspension gets really stiff, and that's when it gets similar to the suspension in the M2. But this car, comfort mode, definitely better suspension for sure. So for example, we're gonna go over these bumps here. Now, video won't do it justice, obviously, because you're not in the car with me, but let's go over these bumps and see how it handles it. So those are some pretty rough bumps. Handled it just fine, didn't knock the fillings out of my teeth, so suspension's fine. Let's go ahead and go home. Let's pick up the M2, take it for a spin, and compare the two cars. All right guys, just parked the Golf R back in the garage. Let's go ahead and hop in the M2 and go for a spin. Guys, setting off in the M2. I put you guys on the POV hat so I can use both hands because the M2 does get a little squirrely sometimes. But as you guys can tell, that startup, the M2, at least in person, I don't know if it'll come out on camera, the M2 is definitely louder, sounds a little bit better than the Golf R for sure. And you guys can hear me kind of switch the baffle. I kind of made it, I started it in the loud mode and then I made it quiet and then made it loud again. So you guys can kind of hear the little sound differences there. So sound, I gotta give it to the M2. Steering. So the Golf R, the steering feels a little bit more connected with the car. Like this one is not a bad steering feel at all. It just doesn't feel like as connected to the car as the Golf R does. Because like this one seems like it turns like a little bit after I turn the steering wheel, whereas the Golf R feels like the steering wheel is directly connected with the wheels. So I don't know, that's just my personal take on it. Again, that could be completely false or whatever, but that's just my take on it. Now, handling, I mentioned this when we were driving the Golf R, M2, hands down, with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, the M2 handles definitely better than the Golf R. Now, ride quality, I did give the W to the Golf R's ride quality, but this car, it doesn't necessarily ride bad. Like right now I'm in the comfort mode, but let me go ahead and change up the suspension. Let's put it in Sport Plus chassis and see the difference. So now it really handles really good because there's like no roll at all. Like the Golf R, even in the most aggressive suspension setting, it still has a little bit of roll. This car feels like there's like no roll at all in this mode, and it's really direct. So it's just a matter of what suspension type you like. If you're daily driving the car, you probably want a soft suspension, so the Golf R is better for that, but tracking, this one's probably better for track suspension. Now, fun. Let's talk about like fun to drive. The Golf R is fun to drive. It's a little car, so it's easy to just kind of maneuver, you know, cut in and out of traffic and just have fun with. But the M2 is definitely more fun to drive, and the reason why is because it's rear-wheel drive and it's a lot faster. So this car can kick the back end out if you wanted to, which I'll demonstrate for you guys in just a second. We'll try not to pull a Mustang. We'll try our best. We'll be safe. And I have been getting a little bit more used to this car, so hopefully we don't spin out, but I'll show you guys what kind of fun I'm talking about. All right, so let me put ourselves in M2 mode, which has the traction set to the 3rd setting, so there's little intervention. We'll put it in the manual mode here. And let's see what we can do here. Gotta make sure there's no coppers. Oh my gosh. This car actually gets really, really good traction. Like the traction is pretty incredible. Now it steps out when you really, really try hard, but you have to like purposely try to step it out. The traction on these Michelins is really good, like really good. We already talked about miles per gallon. The Golf R is better on MPG. Oh my god, that's fun. So I have been getting a little bit more used to it, so it doesn't feel like BMWs are usually pretty nice to slide because they really have the chassis dialed in and everything. Acceleration, obviously the M2 is much faster than the Golf R. You know, from a standstill, like 0 to 60, the Golf R is really fast, and it's probably just as fast, if not a little bit quicker than this car. But once you get up to speeds, this car is like way faster than the Golf R. And rightfully so. You know, it has more power. You know, it's twin turbo inline 6 with 453 claimed horsepower. Golf R with the tune is probably around 350. So, you know, this car does have a lot more power, but it does feel a lot faster. And this car has a ZF 8-speed auto. The Golf R has a dual clutch. The dual clutch does feel a little bit more mechanical if you're one of those guys that likes to feel their car and feel it shifting and stuff. The dual clutch feels more mechanical, but the ZF 8-speed is way more smooth, so I actually prefer the ZF 8-speed. So if I had to pick, I would pick the ZF 8-speed over the dual clutch in the Golf R. The paddles are a little bit better in this car too, even despite this being a torque converter auto. The paddles are a little bit more responsive. Good gas mileage, good gear ratios. It's very smooth. So I have no issues with the ZF 8-speed at all. Now I know you're probably wondering, which car do I prefer? Like if I had to pick one of them, you know, which car would I prefer? Now, daily driving, the Golf R is a better daily driver. Weekend toy, this car is a better weekend toy, just because it's faster, it's more fun. You know, it has the sports car body style and everything like that. But, you know, if I had to live with only one car, I mean, to be honest, the Golf R just does it better as like a one car, because again, it's all-wheel drive. You know, if I go to an area with snow or inclement weather, you know, the all-wheel drive will do a lot better than the rear-wheel drive in this car. You know, it's better for getting groceries and stuff just because, you know, the hatch design and all that. But this car is a lot more like fun, so it's really hard to tell. I mean, I guess I'd probably pick this one because it's just a more fun car and I can deal with this car daily driving it. You know, this car wouldn't be hard to daily drive. It wouldn't be any harder than my Mustang. Although the Mustang was a little bit easier to get in and out of, this car is just like daily driving a Mustang basically. And I daily drove a Mustang for a long time, so it's not an issue. Yeah, it gets really good traction. I even tried to like purposely step it out there and it just goes. Got to be nice to these Michelins, they're really expensive. Stay tuned for a race video in Mexico, of course. It wouldn't be me doing it, it'd be someone I know that sends me a video of the Golf R and the M2 in Mexico. So stay tuned for that video so we can see just how big the gap is. And then from a standstill, it might be kind of interesting to see the difference, because the M2 is rear-wheel drive and the Golf R is all-wheel drive. But as you guys can tell, it does get really good traction. So traction is not that big of an issue. And I forgot to talk about the brakes. So the brakes on the M2 are much better than the ones on the Golf R. These ones, like, they have a really strong initial bite, and then once you get like deep into them, they really slow down fast. So like I can show you guys here. Like, yeah, it slows down really good. So this car has better brakes than the Golf R, as expected. I mean, these are 6-piston huge brakes. The Golf R does have some pretty big rotors, but I think they're just 2-piston calipers. Actually, let's put it in M2 mode here. Let's see if we can get a little sideways here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's faster than the Golf R. Jeez. And that's using paddles, that's not letting the car shift, it's just because I was like trying to control slides and stuff. Oh man. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Which one would you pick and why? And I will see you in the next one.